So today is our annual Serve Gratefully Sunday. And that is actually the third part of our four-part mission statement. Amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to, if you know it, you can say it, love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Serve gratefully. We begin with a quote that I really like. If you are really wise, and it's surprising and wondrous how many people have this wisdom in them, you will know enough to look around for love. It will be there, holding out its arms to you. If you are wise, whoever you are, you will let go, fall against that love, and be held. So writes Reverend Kate Raystrup. Sometimes those arms held out to us will be those of somebody that we know. But more often or not, sometimes those arms being held out to us will belong to a stranger. Sometimes that love comes disguised in the face of a stranger. Sometimes it is a stranger who will be there to serve us gratefully. Sometimes a stranger is the one who will say, "I'm here if you need me." This is one such story which I've shared before, similar to one of the stories that Laurie shared. My friend Alicia experienced one of the most meaningful moments of her life. And she says it really was one of the most meaningful moments. She experienced it in a hospital hallway. Alicia's mom was dying after a drawn-out illness, and my friend was with her mom during those long last days. She was at an area hospital, St. Agnes, and after a long vigil through the night, her mom finally let go and passed into the mysteries of death. Alicia recalls, "It was so early in the morning as I left the room and walked down that quiet corridor towards the elevator. As I did so, I passed a hospital orderly, a young person whose job it was to clean the rooms and the bathrooms. Maybe they saw the exhaustion and utter grief etched on my face, because that orderly stopped and offered me a gentle smile. Years later, I'm sure that person doesn't remember that most ordinary of moments, but I do." Alicia continues, "For me, it was a moment of monumental kindness. At the lowest point when my heart was breaking and my world was shattering, someone smiled at me. A stranger reminded me that there was goodness in the world." What a gift. What a simple human gift. Rebecca Parker writes, "Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting, any of these can serve to offer love. Could we just say that together? The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting, any of these can be served to offer love. Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Kay Braestrup, was at home the morning her state police trooper husband was killed tragically in a car accident. In those early minutes after the accident, two strangers' lives intersected with hers. Years later, that mother of 4 young children remembers. Perhaps 40 minutes after I heard the news of Drew's death, I was sitting in the living room with my friend Monica when the doorbell rang. Monica sprang to answer it. A young man stood on the front steps, clad in a spiffy dark suit, his hair neatly combed, exuding a scent of soap and virtue. Holding out a pamphlet, he beamed at Monica. "Have you heard the good news?" For a long second, Monica just glared at him, not sure whether to punch him or laugh hysterically. She compromised by slamming the door. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time, I answered it. It was my neighbor, an elderly woman I'd exchanged no more than maybe a dozen words with in the 10 years I'd lived in that town of Thomaston, Maine. She had potholders on her hands, which held a pan of brownies still hot from the oven, and tears were rolling down her cheeks. "I just heard," she said. My neighbor, a stranger I had exchanged just a few words with in the 10 years that I lived next door, was standing on the front stoop with her brownies and her tears. She was the good news. We've all had them, those moments, those completely ordinary moments when lives, by accident or chance, intersect. When someone we don't know is there for just a moment in our life and their presence makes a difference. We've all had those moments when someone unknown ever so briefly touches our lives for the better. My mom called them the unknown miracle makers, the angels in disguise. Author Peggy Tabor Millen recalls, "I was on a train on a rainy day. For some reason, I became intent on watching raindrops on the windows. 2 separate drops pushed by the wind merged into one for just a moment and then divided again, each carrying with it a part of the other. Simply by that momentary touching, neither was what it had been before. And as each one went on to touch other raindrops, it shared not only itself, but what it had gleaned from the other. I realized that we never touch people so lightly that we do not leave a trace." Could we pull that slide up? I realized that we never touch people so lightly that we do not leave a trace. Would you be willing to just say that with me? We never touch people so lightly that we do not leave a trace. Our state of being matters to those around us. We need to become conscious of what we unintentionally share so we can learn to share with intention. Rabbi Lawrence Kushner writes, "Know this. No one has within themselves all the pieces to their puzzle. Everyone carries with them at least one and probably many pieces of someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know it, and sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, which is worthless to you, to another, whether you know it or not, whether they know it or not, you are a messenger from the Most High." So says Rabbi Kushner. The Reverend Kate Braystrup served as a Unitarian Universalist chaplain to the Maine Warden Service, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Reverend Kate is a stranger to most of the people she ministers to. She's a stranger to the family members and friends of those who've been lost or killed in the woods or the wilderness of Maine. She tells this true story. I showed up not so long ago in a small northern Maine community. An elderly woman, a person who lived with Alzheimer's, let's call her Corinne, had wandered off, and the place last seen was near the woods. The wardens established a command post at the fire station, and by the time that I got there, it was swarming with wardens in green uniforms. And a small army of volunteers was assembling at the firehouse, eager to assist the wardens in their search. The volunteer search and rescue dog teams, those middle-aged hobbyists with their fine trained dogs, had arrived in force. Then there were the less obviously skilled. A half-dozen elderly backwoods guys in torn flannel shirts, a gaggle of college students with unfortunate piercings, some overweight elks and a shriner or two. The members of a local equestrian club appeared with their horses. Also present were the owner of a stained glass window studio and her wife, and a state senator with his teenage daughter in tow. The high school varsity soccer team abandoned its late summer practice to come out to search, along with a bunch of U.S. Marines who'd been cooling their heels in Bangor, waiting deployment overseas. And arriving in a van with wire mesh reinforced windows and under the direct supervision of a guard, inmates, a group of men in neon yellow shirts from the Down East Correctional Facility arrived, a prison primarily, though not exclusively, reserved for sex offenders. Corinne's son, Jim, arrived from out of town, and able-bodied and 50th announced that searching the woods for his mom would be less stressful than just sitting around waiting, so Jim was put on a team as well. Those members of the community who were too old or obviously out of shape to search set up shop in the firehouse kitchen and commenced cooking. The wardens gave each search team a map and an area to search. Each team also had the copy of a photograph of Corinne, a white-haired lady smiling vaguely at the camera. It was hard going that morning. The terrain was rough, the weather turned ugly, rain fell, and still they searched. Everyone wanted to find the woman in the picture. Those who had never met her wanted to find her. Through that very effort of searching for her, they had begun to love her a little, to love Corinne, the mother of Jim. Early that afternoon, untidy searchers returned to the firehouse for their lunch. They're cold, tired, and very hungry. Jim comes back to the firehouse with a heavy heart. He has scratches on his cheek, twigs in his hair, pine needles down his pants, and his mother is still nowhere to be found. Yet, he takes in that scene before him, mops the rain from his face, and smiles. "Look at this," he says. "Look at this. It's incredible." The firehouse is filled with people. The old coots in the flannel shirts, the middle-aged dog handlers, and the college students with piercings are sharing American chop suey with the state senator and his daughter. The U.S. Marines are comparing blisters with the high school soccer players. The sheriff deputies are breaking bread with the convicts. Game wardens share Jell-O with equestrians. The stained glass artist offers the retired state trooper an oatmeal cookie. Strangers, one and all, they all showed up to serve gratefully, to say, "I'm here if you need me." In a little while, they're going to go back out and search some more. They will try to find a body, living or dead. For now, they're here together, joined in community, bent on the common purpose of love. "Everyone in the world is here," the lost woman's son exclaims. "It's a miracle." If you are really wise, you will know enough to look around for love. It will be there, holding out its arms to you. If you're wise, whoever you are, you will let go, fall against that love, and be held. We never know what that love might look like. We never know who that love might look like. We never know what will hold us. On this, our annual Serve Grateful Sunday, may we remember that sometimes those arms held out will be ours. Sometimes love will come disguised as our face. Sometimes we will be the stranger who must say, "I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me." Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.